Asasi Debate Championship 2022. I would like to remind the members of the floor they may only raise points of information in the constructive speech and only after the first minute and before the last minute of speech. Also, please ensure that your internet connection is stable and your voice is audible. Are there any inquiries before we start? So I will take that as a no. So we will start this round. I would like to call upon the Prime Minister to deliver her speech. Hear, hear.
Am I audible? Okay. Okay, so okay. I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen of the floor, today in a world where women have been historically less prioritized and equally treated in these workforces, we believe that we should do something about this, at least to offset the gender pay gap. I, as the Prime Minister today, will be giving you a few definitions based off of the motion. I will be moving on to explain a little bit about the gender pay gap in the first place. I will be imposing some burdens on opposition side that we want you to prove to win this debate, and I will be finally moving on to my arguments. So, firstly, a few definitions from side of the government. What is this lower rate of income tax that we want to impose onto these women, right? So firstly, income taxes are tax imposed on individuals respective to or according to their salary, which is to say the monthly salary from their work. And the way we want to do this is just by small margins, these small amounts of 4 to 5% of a lower rate of this income tax to at least offset, at least make it a little fairer to these women in the first place, so that we're not trying to break or to fix. We're not trying to say that, oh, this motion will actually resolve the problem, the root of the problem in the first place. We want to make it at least a little less noticeable to make this world a little more conducive for women, right? So what is this gender pay gap? Basically, in simple words, it's a difference in earning between men and women. And it's been somewhat of a large and ongoing debate between people, but we have reached a mutual consensus that firstly, this pay gap does exist, but secondly, that exists for a multitude of reasons. General statistics from these economic experts conclude that a woman, for example, in the United States, get at least 82 cents for every dollar a man earns. Now, this may not seem like a massive difference, but in the long run of things, when we look at it at a larger scale, it makes a large difference, especially since it's lower for women of color. Now, why does this gender pay gap exist in the first place, right? Well, there are a multitude of reasons, but firstly, there's been an agreement that the difference in jobs, because employers tend to historically pay for jobs that are considered as woman predominated jobs. Let's say women historically, these jobs that are looked at as women's jobs. Now these jobs have lower pay, such as healthcare workers, teachers, and etc., because they have been generally looked upon as less important jobs and have been deemed less prioritized, hence the lower pay, as opposed to predominantly men's jobs, such as trades and construction and the such. The second reason is that men are willing to work more hours, right? But because of the majority of these gender gaps, that these men have families to support, and they are willing to work more hours. There are natural reasons that women can't be working these long hours in the first place that are restricting them from these requirements in the first place. And lastly, we believe that this
QI.
combination. not yet. Discrimination also plays an important part because we have to believe that it is in these employers' power to determine which what the salary that these female workers get. And we have to agree that these employees fear retaliation. They fear whatever punishments they may get. So it creates this sorts of fear that they won't really fight back. And also for the fact that most corporations or most employers will rely on these prior salary histories that have been time and time again throughout history influenced by discrimination towards women, which also causes the less pay gap in the first place, right? So our stance on the government side today is that we believe in a world where everybody should be treated equally regardless of this gender, and this also includes this income. Now you may raise the argument of dissent of men feeling detest that, oh, these women are getting more pay for them. Why should they? Well, for the first place, we believe that for the employers, these predominantly male of high status, right? Firstly, it's not going to make much difference in what the company makes. But secondly, no matter how you look at it, every people face more or less the same hardships in this world, and we believe that these women also should get a chance, especially since they have been already suffering throughout history from this gender pay gap, and we believe that everybody should be treated equally and get equal footing. At least make it a little fairer for these women, right? So moving on to my arguments. The argument that I will be putting on you today is we want better equality for this woman, right? Why is this true? This will lessen by imposing this.
So I,
Yeah, sure.
instead of lowering the income tax rate, don't you think that raising the minimum wage for women is a better does a better job at giving equality for these women?
Firstly, we believe that that may sound like a plausible solution on your side, but you have to realize that the reason this pay gap exists is not because predominantly because they look at a woman and they say you get less money than the man who works in the exact same field as you. It's more to the fact that these men are more willing to work more. These men have predominantly higher, let's say, higher statuses in office, and we believe that by implementing this motion in the first place, this will incentivize the change in this pay gap in the first place, and we will be telling you why this is the fact, right? So firstly, we're telling you that this is going to lessen the salary gap, at least make it a little fairer for these women, right? And for the fact that this will encourage more women to pursue work and careers, because now there are this is uh, the lesson the less the little gap in the salary is going to make it a less of a burden. This we also believe that this is going to be less of a burden to single mothers who are also suffering from the pay gap. Statistics have shown that men only contribute to 16% of single parent families, which is to say that more women are suffering on this behalf. We believe that they are not any less important and just as crucial to the future of the nation, right? Because these children deserve equal opportunities. We also believe that this will create a conducive and healthy workplace in the fact that these women are now feeling happier to work, and this will also lessen the burden of these families. If anything, the men at home, the husbands, will feel relieved now that they have a less of a financial burden with their wife being able to pay for more things. I've also told you that decreasing the gap will incentivize women to work harder because it will increase the labor participants of women, because now this is good because now these women will have more independence and freedom to spend their money, and they realize their role in the community, in the society in the first place. And this is why we believe this will create a better solution on our side. And with that, I'm proud to propose.
Thank you to the Prime Minister for his speech just now. Let us welcome the Leader of Opposition to deliver her case. Here, here.
All right, thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you are both audible and visibly I can see you.
All right, thank you. So I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Chair, my opening line for my speech is simple: down with the patriarchy. So, the motion for today is this House will apply a lower rate of income tax to women to offset the gender pay gap. Now, what I want to address here is that government side seems to not understand the status quo fully, and I'll be rectifying that in my speech. And other than that, my other teammates' speech will also explain to you why this entire motion actually promotes misogyny, which will be further expanded upon with my second speaker. So, first of all, the government has failed to state the stakeholders, which I will also rectify, which are women and women alone. So, what we prove to you today is that the policy implemented by the government here does not help with status quo, and we will prove that, and we will win this debate today. So, what is status quo actually? Women are paid less than men, and that's a fact. But it's more deeply rooted than just income tax pay. To address gender inequality in wages, better steps should be taken. So I know that the first speaker, Prime Minister, has already conceded that this their policy won't actually solve status quo, but they claim that it will lessen the burden. But why does this burden exist in the first place? Government claims to craft a world where all genders are paid equally, but in fact, it's not. No matter how much tax you pay, the root cause is still there, and that is the one that we should actually put policies to rectify. So, on to arguments. Government's arguments hinge on the fact that uh, it's basically like government does not understand why the pay wage gap exists in the first place, which is why the case that opposition presents to you today is a better counter proposal. So we propose that we should increase wage for women, because if you compare a woman's wage to a man's that has been minus by tax, the amount of wage is would be still the same, would still be the same as the woman's. So also, when people pay less income tax rate, the economy of the government shatters. Because tax money goes into fixing roads, opening more public schools, funding government research. So it's not a
POI.
win-win situation, but rather a loss-loss situation. Please wait a moment. And the benefits of our policy is that there will be more gender equality, because why are there gender gaps in salary given in the first place? Because that's the root cause of the problem, the gender prejudice problem. There's a gender bias in the workplace. So women of color in particular would see substantial benefits, as many seem to segregate into low-paying jobs. And ensuring equal participation of girls and women in education, this will all increase equal participation in girls and women in education and the workplace. Before that, any POI?
Yes. Okay, so you say that by lowering the taxes of the income taxes of women, that the government won't get any money back to fix the road or whatever. But don't you think that if we increase the wage of many other women in the world, that we do the same thing in the long run?
Well, I'll have to stop you there, because in no way did I say that we should increase tax rate of the women. We are just opposition side believes that men and women should pay equal tax rates, and tax rates in and of itself should be fair and equal and according to their income. So on to my arguments. So our main argument is that to solve the root issue, which is gender income inequality, the government has to promote the universal and dual breadwinner model, which is to say that women's labor force participation and wages are on par with men. So to achieve this, maybe men will likely need to work less and care more. So why this is so is because work, as it stands, status quo, work rewards individuals, particularly men, who work obscure and excessive hours, and that just cannot work as well for women, since women are expected to balance domestic and their work life. So hence, a better model should be made, since it'll address the root issue. Oh wait, so the impact of eliminating these patriarchal attitudes and behaviors that cause women to suffer and that prevent them from accessing positions of power, And other than the impact is that when let's put this into perspective, people. If a couple's family member is sick and in the hospital, and both people of that couple have equally demanding jobs, it's obvious whose job will be prioritized. The man's is. Thus, this will actually exacerbate the gender wage gap. So we expect women to, because the world society expects women to further stay in their role of domesticity. So why your proposal to lower rate income tax is wrong is because you're admitting that women are indeed paid less than men, even though they are doing the same work as men do. It's not actually based on merit points as you like to think. It's too idealistic. And second of all, you sacrifice more money, but you don't get what is worth in return. And again, like I said, it's not a win-win situation, but rather a loss-loss situation. So other than that, I'd like to put into perspective, why do women enter low-wage jobs, such as why do women become nurses rather than doctors? It's because they know that they likely won't get paid the same as doctors who are men, because they know that they won't get to sacrifice as much time into becoming a doctor, right? So also, women are paid less because of maternity leave and but a child should be a shared responsibility. Paternity leave are also given to men, and they should take part in it as well. And we do not condone the society views that women are seen as the main caretaker of the family. So is that clear? Yes. And with that, I have never been more proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Side Opposition, for your speech just now. I would like to call upon the Deputy Prime Minister to deliver his or her speech. Here.
Hello, am I audible?
Yes, both audibly and visibly I can see you.
Ladies and gentlemen of the floor, I'm here for you today to provide to you a clearer picture on why we as side government win this debate and how the arguments presented by side opposition are completely flawed. Now, firstly, it boils down to how they say they want the patriarchy to be done with, but in turn, what they propose to do is try to increase the wage gap, the wages of women as opposed to men. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we agree from the government side that the status quo is yes, women are paid less than men, but you have to look at men are considerably, and they have admitted as well, better work. They are better workforce. They work longer hours. They work longer hours. Why? Well, firstly, they need to provide more for these families. Secondly, it is a biological trait that they are able to work that long. And thirdly, they are not they are not grinded down by certain issues that present in biological or physical traits. Now, why do we also think that the stakeholders in this debate do not only constitute women? Well, first of all, when we try and fix the issue of wage gaps, many parties benefit from it. First of all, the women itself is a main party, but it also includes the men, the husbands in the family, who also benefit from their wives earning more, as what has been said by the Prime Minister of this debate. When wives start earning more, the husband has a more relaxed issue. They do not have to work these extra hours to provide for their family because the significant other in that family also has the same amount of money for them. Now, thirdly, we also the stakeholders also provide for the country itself. Our whole premises of this debate is by imposing such low income taxes, we encourage more women to go out and try to find more jobs, and it's a safer environment for more jobs. Sorry, later. It's a safer environment for more jobs because they are able to recuperate what they might have lost if they don't because they don't work as hard. Now the opposition side is coming up here and saying that if we take money out of the government by giving less tax incentives, we create less chances for building roads, so on and so forth. But what my government whip has POI'd the opposition leader and said that by paying the women more, aren't we doing the same thing as taxing them less? The money is going out of the government, It's the same exact principle. But in our case, ladies and gentlemen, with less taxes, inherently there will be more opportunities and there'll be more incentive for women to work in their own respective fields. That is an undebatable point from our side. Now, in terms of how we're going to talk about how we're going to talk about how men need to work more to provide more, as well as the men's job will be prioritized more on the opposition side. Now, this is inherently true because of what they call the patriarchy exists. That we are not denying that it exists, but we're trying to at least rectify it to a degree where it's not egregious on the women. And the best way to do so is by imposing this small tax. It's not terrible, it's a small tax to help these women and help the country and help the men. Now, moving on to my first point, where we talk about breaking gender stereotypes. Now, why is this true? Well, firstly, when there is a gender pay gap, there is discrimination inherently. And when there's discrimination, women are inherently seen as only caregivers. Now, why is this bad for society? Well, first of all, it creates a society where women are thought as only caregivers and they are paid less. When that pay less, it is justified. It is justified because of what the opposition team has also admitted, that they don't work as much. But how do we solve this? By not riling up one side of the party, which is the men, and also being equal to the other side, which is the women. Well, we impose such a tax. Why? In the on paper, men do work more than women, but
POI.
collectively, yes, accepted.
Um, Actually, it doesn't matter if the women pay less tax, because if they are paid less income, then they won't have money to pay the tax in of itself. So, what do you say to that?
I'm thinking that the opposition does not understand how taxes work. This income tax works on how much you pay. Sorry, on how much you earn. So that even though you earn less, if you reduce the percentage of income tax, you're inherently paying less income tax compared to those people who have higher income tax percentages. That's how this works. That is how we have outlined it in the debate, and my Prime Minister has mentioned this. Now, moving on, we're going to talk about how inherently on paper men are paid more. That is a fact. Why? Because they work more. This is proven by the opposition team. Now, why do we not deny? Why do we not fight this? Is because on paper they are paid more, but as a collective agreement, as a collective thing, women also have a role in caregiving. Why? Because they are good at it. They are inherently good at better caregiving. This is why dominated fields like nursing, caregiving are dominated women, because they're good at it. So how do we support what women are good at? Well, by imposing such a tax as to say that, hey, men are good in this, women are good in this. Let's try to balance your work life balance out by imposing such a tax that doesn't necessarily harm the men, but also incentivizes women to go out and find more. Now, why is this important? Well, first of all, women are empowered to do so. When they see that they're able to get less taxes, when they see that they're able to at least climb up and try to fight the gender pay gap, which in some places is 5%, whereas in others is 30%. When they see they're able to fight for this, they will be more empowered. Why else is it important? Because it stops the under-evaluation of female jobs. Nursing and healthcare, the value of those will increase because they have less income tax imposed on them, which inherently causes them to be able to spend more money for themselves. And finally, this also increases female role models in society. And that is something we want, because when females or women have to pay less in income tax, when they are seen as the proper and have benefits for themselves, this is where role models are born. This is where people can look up to them, and this is why government side strongly support such a motion. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Deputy Prime Minister, for his speech just now. I would like to call upon the Deputy Leader of Opposition to deliver her case. Here.
I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Panel, in this motion, this House will apply a lower rate of income tax to women to offset the gender pay gap. Under side opposition, we believe that this motion shouldn't stand at the end of the day. 3 things that I'll be doing in my speech. First, rebuttals. Second, giving correlations to what my leader of opposition has said. And third, I'll be introducing new arguments to the table. First things first, rebuttals. Let's just say that the whole case that side government has set up has been very funny and very ironic, right? Coming from their side. So it's very ironic for side government who wants to serve justice, right? Provide a better world for women when their policy never solves anything at the end of the day. Instead of increasing something that from their side has said, they want to lower these income tax rates because it will motivate women to work more, right? It will increase labor. Well, I say that this will be very counterproductive because women will feel defeated because they know it doesn't solve anything on their part. They work more, but all they get is just a low income tax rate, right? When they don't even earn more to begin with. So I'll be reinforcing the point of information that was given to my leader of opposition, right? When we say we want to raise minimum wage of women, sure, the government has to spend more, but we say that this is a better trade-off compared to the increase of income tax rate. We say that it's okay to forego money if it means that it can be effective solution for women. If we know that the policy that you're trying to implement is a waste of money, a waste of funds, why would we still implement this policy, right? And something that's coming from the deputy prime minister, his whole speech coming from a man, right, was full of like misogyny, full of him being sexist, right? Why is this? Because just because these women have increased workforce or workload, it doesn't give the right to still pay women less, right? You say that men are. It's been proven that men work more. Like has been generalizing women in his whole speech. He's considering how all women have husbands, right? Therefore, like their husbands should be paid more. But he forgets to consider the fact that some women are single mothers. Some women have to work for the family. They don't have husbands to provide for them, and therefore they have to depend on such a small amount of wage for them, right? And we think that this is very unfair on your part. So coming from a man that generalizes that all women are the same, right? All women are caregivers, all women are good at taking care of their babies. We think that just because that they some women are very good at being caretakers, right? There's no point, there's no reason for you to generalize all of them at the end of the day. And it's contradictory coming from your part because you want empowerment for women, but at the end of your speech you emphasize on the fact that women want to take care of kids at home, right? We think that's very contradictory. So moving on to my arguments on how the rejected. How the policy doesn't solve the actual problem. 2 points, 2 levels of analysis in my speech. First, I'll be talking about how your policy doesn't solve the actual problem, and second, I'll be elaborating on what is the actual problem that you need to fix on your side of the house. Now, why doesn't it solve the actual problem? Women have always been the minority and the oppressed party, regardless of the situation. Both sides can concede to this fact, right? The gender pay gap is always something that's been debated for decades. Who deserves to be paid more? Why are women not paid more in the first place? So to ensure a world where both genders are given equal opportunities, the actual deep-rooted issues needs to be addressed in today's debate. Side government, the problem with you is that you want to try to come up with a policy that's just sweeping everything under the rug while pretending to be proactive about gender inequality. You say, let's just give a simple policy and pretend we're done with it. By coming up with a simple proposal that doesn't bear any fruit at the end of the day, we say that you're wasting your breath to begin with. So, ladies and gentlemen, why doesn't it solve the actual problem? We say that under this motion, right, it's only the tax that's been lowered, not the wage, that is the source of income. There's no point for you to lower income tax rate for women's wage that has already been less in the first place, right? So like what Deputy Prime Minister has said, the way income tax work, it still doesn't give benefit to these women if they're already paid less in the first place. It's no reason for you to lower the income tax rate if it doesn't give any benefit for them at the end of the day. So how is this affecting women
POI.
in general? We have to consider single mothers, wives, all women. No, thank you. We have to consider single mothers, wives, and all women in general, right? This is the actual problem. We have gender bias, we have gender inequality, and we have misogyny. Both sides concede to this fact, right? But what's different is that women have always been perceived to be on the weaker side. They're not worthy of being paid as equally as men, no matter how much workload they have. This has been proven by Deputy Prime Minister's speech saying like, oh, men are very strong, therefore men are paid more, they work more, right? While not considering the fact that some women are also working more than men on most days. Women are expected to be housewives. They're even rejected for getting jobs because they are considered, or they are assumed to always be on maternity leave, right? So there's no reason to pay these women in the first place. The sacrifice on the women's side is that in status quo, like what my leader of opposition has told you, some women prefer to work in lower paying jobs because these jobs are low risk jobs that are worth the pay, right? They think, why work harder if we're not going to get paid as much? What is the risk on my part, right? I have to sacrifice the time I have with my family. I have to sacrifice the time I have for myself in order to get a pay that doesn't even pay much. And we think that side opposition truly wants the best for women, no matter what, in order to ensure inequality. In order to ensure equality, sorry. And side government just pretends to be caring for women, ladies and gentlemen, coming from men who wanted to set these policies to pretend like they care about women in the first place. And misogyny is that noticing that women do in fact have lower wage. How is implementing lower income tax rate a form of misogyny? We believe this is because by lowering the income tax rate, you do acknowledge the fact that women are paid less, right? You want to do something about
POI.
it. Instead of implementing anything to help that, instead of using something as mediocre as a lower income tax rate to help cover the situation, we think that it's very ironic on your part. So how is this a problem? Because at the end of the day, a country or a society can never progress in terms of gender equality if we stay at a point where we think doing something mediocre is so sufficient to assist women. It doesn't address the actual problem. It doesn't help women feel better at the end of the day. So why do we think that government spends unnecessary money, right? Because when they lower the tax rate, at the end of the day, the disparity of the wage gap isn't lowered at all, ladies and gentlemen. So why do we think on our side, our counter proposal is more effective? By raising the minimum wage, not only will it help increase the income for women, it also helps boost the economy, right? When women get more money, they have more buying power, and it contributes to the whole demand and supply cycle. If compared to the lower income tax rate that side government tries to propose. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you put these two on a scale, you can tell which one the house is heavier to begin with. And I hope that you'll side with side opposition. Thank you.
All right, thank you to the Deputy Leader of Opposition for her speech just now. Let's hear it for the government whip to deliver the final speech for the government side. Here.
All right, am I audible?
Yes, you are visibly I can see you, or audibly I can hear you.
All right. So I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Today, on both the government side and the opposition side, we have noticed the same thing that are happening in the society, and in the end, we want to reduce it, which is the gender inequality. I believe that is the main aim of our debate today, which is to prove which side could reduce the gender inequality best in their world. So, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I want you to note that the opposition side seem to not understand until at the end of the debate of how the income taxes work. So my deputy prime minister has already tell you that the income taxes are already there, but what we are trying to do is we are lowering the taxes towards the women so that in the end of the day, the net income for both men and women are the same. So for example, I give you that if a man has a higher wage, and they have to pay more rather than women, and a woman who has a lower wage and they have to pay less, don't you think that in the end the net income of those earning and those paying would come to the same amount at the end of the day. So, ladies and gentlemen, moving on to the first clash that are happening in this debate. So, whether we should lower the income tax to women or to increase the minimum wage to offset the gender pay gap in this world, ladies and gentlemen. So, on the opposition side, they say that we should increase the minimum wage of women instead of lowering their tax because they believe that it is bad to the economy. But, ladies and gentlemen, I want to tell you something that I have POI'd the opposition leader just now. By increasing the minimum wage, we are giving out money from the government. We are lowering the money that we have on the government side. So by giving out more money, this could actually worsen the economy in the first place. So by lowering the income taxes, we are not receiving. We're not receiving. We don't lose anything on the side of the government because the only problem that comes with lowering the taxes is we don't get as much, but we still give as much as we can to the workers.
AI.
No, thank you. And so, in the short term, by increasing this minimum wage to the women, they might have more money. You might say that they have more money. They have more money that they can make the same amount of money as men. But, ladies and gentlemen, in the long term, as has been said by the opposition side themselves, there's a patriarchy that are happening in the society. So, when we increase the minimum wage of women, don't you think that don't you think that the working environment would be more toxic because men think that they work harder than men think that women are expected to take care of babies, and like the opposition side said just now, they get to have maternity leave and whatnot, so that these men, they are expecting women to have less money than they earn, so that will in the end increase the discrimination in the workplace, ladies and gentlemen, because of the unfairness that the men think that are happening. So the opposition side also tell us why waste money by lowering the taxes to the women, but we don't waste money at all by lowering the taxes. If we increase the wage, then that's the waste of money, because like the opposition side has said also, if we these women, they do not expect to go for a better job because they think that they cannot benefit for the job because they are expected
AI,
to
please.
have babies and whatnot. Yes, we are.
If you say you don't have income a loss when you reduce the income tax from a 10% income tax to a 5% income tax, you encounter a 5% income loss, and that means you encounter 5% of your income tax, which is about like millions of ringgit, which is a loss to the nation. Isn't that true?
But if we increase the wage itself rather than just lowering the tax, like I said just now, by lowering the tax, we are not accepting, and that is even better than losing the money that we already have in the first place. At least we are not losing the money that we have in our economy, and thus we could protect our economy more. And the second clash that are happening in this debate is which side would better break the stereotypes, or at least at our government side, we have stated just now, we just want to offset the gender pay gap, not the gender inequality as a whole, because it is impossible to eradicate gender inequality as a whole, because that's an individual damage that has been done by men to women. So on the government side, we want to lower tax because we believe that if a woman get lowered their tax, like we are noticing in the status quo, women are more expected to be a single parent. Women are more expected to take care of their babies. So when lowering their tax, they don't have to worry about paying. At least then, if we increase their wage, like they might not have to think about, they might be a little bit okay because they have more money, like the opposition side has said, but they have to think of the high tax that are being imposed on them. So by lowering their tax, even though they have less money, they don't have to worry more about paying those tax, and they can focus more on arranging how they should use their money that is low in the first place. So that is why we believe that on our government side we could encourage more women to work, because they are not expected to pay as much as men. And in the end, when they work more in the first place, they will actually in the end reduce this they will actually in the end help the government themselves by increasing the economy and giving a better workplace and giving the better workplace. So with that being said, I rest my case. Thank you.
All right, thank you to the government whip. Let's hear it for the opposition whip. Before we start, timekeeper. A reminder for timekeeper. The timers are to only be shown when the bell is rung, just to give a better live stream for the whole debate. So you may only show the timer when the time during the bell ring. Is it clear? I hope it's clear for the timekeeper. Okay. So let's hear. Okay, without further ado, let's hear the last speech from the opposition side. I welcome the opposition whip. Here.
Am I audible? Can you see me? I've had problems just now. Sorry.
Yes, you are audible, but your voice sounds a little bit sunken. Can you fix that first? Is there any way to
Hello?
fix it? Yes.
Is
Okay,
it
better.
not clear? All right, better. All right. Thank you very much. Start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, members of the chair, let's look at the debate that we have today, right? Let's look at the words that has been proposed and the solutions that have been proposed by side government and side opposition, right? And I'll tell you today why side opposition wins this debate in a high margin and why we give a better solution towards the problem at hand, and we give uh, a better world in which women are more empowered and live a better life at the end of the day, right? So what are the two main clashes that in this debate, right? First of all, we both have money. We are part of the government, and we both have or need money to spend and have money to spend either by reducing the tax, reducing income tax, or by increasing the minimum wage. Right? We both have money to spend. Right now, the second thing that we want to do in this debate, right? We want to decrease inequality, right? And we want to empower these women at the end of the day, right? And today, I'll show you why side opposition does this in a better way and does this for the longer term and eventually makes women more empowered and have a better life at the end of the day. So I'll first go on to my rebuttals, and then I'll move on to the clashing points and emphasize why side opposition does a better way of solving this problem. And at the end, and lastly, I'll give a comparison on the worlds that we have today on side opposition and side government, right? So first of all, let's look at the rebuttals, right? First of all, they said by on side opposition on side government, right? They talked about giving a 4 to 5% income tax reduction towards these minority group, these women, right? But the matter of fact is, let me tell you why this is problematic, right? Because first of all, this is like maybe by having a 4 or 5% income tax reduction, right? First of all, it has a lot of money actually towards the government that they have to spend to ensure that they can cover up these 4 to 5%, right? It's a large amount of money as a collective when all the women around the world is actually taken into the consideration, right? It's a lot of more expenditure at the end of the day, right? Because this will continue on for a long amount of time, right? And at the end of the day, at the end of the day, right, the reality is this 4 to 5% reduction is actually very problematic towards these people, right? Why? Because this will maybe like give extra money for like maybe an extra coffee or like an extra 50 ringgit for this woman at the end of the day, right? It really doesn't help them much at the end of the day for this woman, and it doesn't really give any empowerment to this woman, right? So then moving on, right? Moving on. They also talked about how like giving 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 incentives towards they by sorry by lowering the income tax, right? They will incentivize these women to find better jobs or to find more jobs at the end of the day. So why is this wrong, right? We tell you that, well, these women have to accept the fact that that at the end of the day, when they reduce the income tax, right, the women at the end of the day have to accept the fact that they only get a reduction in income tax. That's all they get. That's all the government wants to do for them. That's all they get as women, and that's the only compensation that they will give to women for what they do at the end of the day, as working as a housewife, as working to find a job at the end of the day, and to keep on living their lives as a person of society. The government compensates them by reducing their income tax, which is really irrelevant and insufficient for what they have to do and on the daily basis. At the end of the day, the side government has disregarded the fact that they talked about, husbands also are helping me, these women's right. But look at people who just started, like, who just entered the workforce, right? Who just entered the careers, right? They don't have husbands to support them most likely all the time, and by just reducing these income tax, it won't really help them at the end of the day, right? That's why on side opposition, we give you a better solution toward this problem. Right? We tell you that by increasing the minimum wage at the end of the year, we empower this woman, and we tell you that we give you more money for you to spend on yourself and to make a better life and to have a better life at the end of the day. Right? We give you more buying power, and we give you more incentive to work at the end of the day. Right? And we tell you that you, as a woman, have the opportunity to get more money at the end of the day. Right? That is, at the end of the day, this is also a psychological effect. Right? We tell you which is better, by having a few extra money or by gaining extra money, which more is more impactful towards someone, right? By having a woman, right? Let's give an example of a kid, right? By a kid, letting him keep his 5 ringgit, right? Or rather give him an extra 5 ringgit towards his pocket money, right? Which one will he be more incentivized and more appreciative of, right? We tell you that by giving a better minimum wage, right, we can incentivize this woman more at the end of the day, and we empower this woman more at the end of the day, right? So that's the biggest point of clash, in which the side opposition wins, right? Because we empower more, the woman more at the end of the day, right? Because on side government, right, they fail to give a clear analysis on really how they actually incentivize this woman to work, how they actually empower the woman to work, right? Because they tell you, yeah, sure, yeah, we reduce their minimum wage, right? That's we reduce their income tax, right? But how does that correlate to actually, making them feel empowered at the end of the day, right? All they know is that they have an extra few ringgit at the end of the day, right? But on side opposition, we tell you that we give them more money, and we tell them that you deserve more money at the end of the day because you work hard, and all you do in your life is more meaningful on side opposition's world, right? So yeah, sure, I'll take a PI.
The incentives we give is that when you reduce the income tax, the net income of that individual will increase in the long run compared to somebody who has a higher income tax. That is the incentive.
The incentive is you sorry, come again.
When we reduce the income tax for an individual, the net income, the profit, the clear margin they earn or they profit from is highly better than a person who has a higher income tax who will have a lower profit margin. That's the incentive we're trying to impose.
Okay, then okay, fine. I accept. I see the fact, right? All right, sure. We both have better net profits at the end of the day, right? Let's look at the comparatives of the world outside opposition and side government, right? Let's look at how the two main factors and the two main clashes in this debate, right? Sure. First, we both solve the problem of, yeah, women need more money at the end of the day to support themselves and support their families, right? We both solve that problem by reducing income tax and by increasing minimum wage, right? But what's the second clash and the most important clash here, right? Is to solve equality, right? And which one will you be more empowered by? As adjudicated as a woman in this debate itself, which one will you be more empowered by? By having an extra few ringgit in your bank because the government reduces your income tax, or by accepting and getting more money by the people, and by having more money at the end of the day, by accepting this by the acceptance of more money, which one will you be more empowered by as a woman? By having some money left, or by accepting more money at the end of the day? This is the class that we win on this debate today, because this is the main point on how this side opposition wants to and will ensure that these women will get equality and feel more empowered and more incentivized to work and be a better person for society at the end of the day. And with that, I'm so proud to oppose this motion. Thank you.
Thank you to the opposition whip for his speech just now. Now I would like to start the preparation for your reply speech. I will allocate 1 minute for both sides to prep for their reply speech, and then opposition may start their reply speech first. Okay, so your 1 minute prep time starts now. I would like to welcome the side opposition to start their victory speech for this round. Here. Gentle reminder, there is no POIs from both sides during this speech, okay? Thank you.
All right. I'll start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, it's clear to me which side wins this debate today, opposition. But I'll humor side government and tell you why your arguments actually are null and how we disprove them time and time again from throughout all 3 speakers of side opposition. So first of all, let's identify the 2 main clashes in this debate today. Which side will reduce gender wage gap, as government whip has put it very nicely? And second of all, which side actually reduces gender inequality in the long run better? So, first clash. Which one reduces gender wage gap better? Obviously, it's side opposition, because in our world, as my deputy leader of opposition said, side government only sweeps things under the rugs. They said from the first speaker themselves that they know that taxes won't actually solve the deep-rooted issue, but instead they're lessening the burden. Sure, okay, let's give them the benefit of the doubt. However, still, the problem is still there. Women are still paid less. That is what opposition wants to hammer home, the fact that women are still paid less. Our side addresses the status quo better. And again, uh, again, to credit opposition more, we are the ones who had to establish the stakeholder in this debate today, which government has not contended, so it must be true, right? So the stakeholders of today, I paraphrase again, are women and women alone. Government and government whip um, has actually said that stuff like about the government framed her arguments that government is stakeholder as well, when that is not the case. Because she says that by increasing minimum wage of women, the government actually loses more, which is like, okay, let's say that that's true. But fact of the matter is, women are the stakeholders, so we are willing to trade off government money for women's wages, for women's comfort. So, side government, who are you actually protecting? Because if we reduce the disparity in gender in wages, then that's a fair trade-off for us. Because again, stakeholders are women. The women are at stake here. The government and their economy, that's a whole other debate. But what matters is that the women are paid more, uh, and it's equal for all genders. So also, site government also claims to empower women, but in fact, they are contradicting themselves, because you say, and I quote from Deputy Prime Minister, that women should go into nurse jobs and raise children because, quote, they are good at it. Is this, ladies and gentlemen, is this not clear how extremely misogynistic this is? It's perpetuating mindsets that are extremely harmful. And meanwhile, in site opposition, we've actually addressed all of these issues while also getting the benefit of more income, better economy, kill two birds with one stone. So other points that go to us are the fact that site government says that women don't work as much, and they are supporting women, what women are good at, and increasing female role models, which, ladies and gentlemen, we all say that this is null because it's only perpetuating misogyny, and it doesn't matter if they are given low income tax, because at the end of the day, they are paid less. A plethora of other points all go to us. And government, so in their world, government perpetuates misogyny at their best case scenario, while in our worst case is that ours have equal pay, even if it has to be paid the same tax. So you know who the win goes to. Thank you very much.
Thank you, opposition side, for your reply speech just now. I would like to welcome the government side to deliver their reply speech for today's session. Here.
Thank you. Am I audible and visible?
Yes, I can see you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, I'll be starting my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen of the floor, I think it's very clear today here that government side wins this debate. We cater to the woman. We try to solve the root of the problem, which we still believe throughout these three speeches, they are failing to grasp the root of the problem, but they think they will be able to solve it just by increasing this, right? It takes longer than that just reducing the effect of this problem in the first place. They are okay. Opposition side from time and time again has failed to understand the reason that this pay gap exists in the first place. They are claiming to you that my deputy prime minister's speech were just misogynist and male biased opinions, right? But I've already told you from my speech, right from the prime minister's speech, that the reason this pay gap exists in the first place is because of the fact that these men are willing to work longer, the fact that their jobs are seen or are deemed as more worthy and thus should be paid more in the first place. We have already told you the reason that this exists, and by just raising their minimum wages is not going to solve the problem in the first place. They keep telling us that we're just trying to sweep this problem under the mat, but we're trying to tell you we want to solve it with the simple use of equity and not angering any parties on other side, right? So the first thing that what has government side told you in today's debate? We've told you how by decreasing this income tax in the first place, we promote this better equity and equality to these women in the first place, and we want to break these gender stereotypes. We want to break these stereotypes as these women-dominated fields of work are seen less worthy or are seen less unimportant. We've told you how. Okay, so the first clash is we agree that women should be paid more. Is it either to raise the wages or to decrease the taxes? Because you have to understand here, by decreasing the income taxes, the net income of these women increase in the long run. They are getting more money in the simple way. But how do we solve this? Do we raise the wages or do we decrease the taxes? Both sides have agreed that a major problem in society, a major part that plays out in this debate today is the patriarchy that exists. We believe, and we've already told you on the government side, that this problem will be even worse if you would just choose to raise the minimum wage simply because, for women specifically, simply because, we want them to earn more. We've already told you that from research, right, from like long decades of debating, that the reason this pay gap exists is because that these men want to put like more, they're shouldering the burdens for their families in the first place by working more and harder and longer jobs. We don't think that just increasing the minimum wages is a practical way of solving the problem in the first place. But the second clash here, right? Which side incentivizes the women? Does our side do it at all, or does the opposition side do it at all? They've told us that by decreasing this income taxes, it won't help. But we've already told you, by decreasing the income taxes, these women would not have to pay as much back, so they get to keep more money, right? You have to realize that the balance of people being paid more means that they have to pay more back to the government. on the other side, when we want to just decrease the income taxes, these women have to pay less back to the government. So now they have more spending power and more money, which also leads to the arguments that my deputy prime minister has told you about them feeling more empowered, feeling more incentivized to work, and having these role models in the first place, right? So we on the government side, at the end of the day, are more in favor of creating peace, and we want to help these women in a way that we believe is more practical, works better in the long run, doesn't damage any side, doesn't damage these women, and for that side alone, for that simple reason alone, government side wins this debate. Thank you. I rest my case.
All right, thank you to the government side for the reply speech just now. So that signals the end of this debate. Please allocate me a few more minutes to deliver the final verdict for today's debate.